Today in Kyiv, an important diplomatic encounter unfolded that carries weight far beyond Ukraine's borders. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky welcomed Denmark's Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen in a meeting designed not only to express gratitude for Copenhagen's consistent support, but also to push forward a shared European agenda in the face of escalating Russian aggression. The moment was highly symbolic, a European ally travelling into a war-zone capital to demonstrate solidarity at a time when Moscow is testing the resilience of the West. From the outset, the atmosphere carried both warmth and urgency. Zelensky shook hands with Rasmussen, a gesture that conveyed trust built on months of cooperation. Denmark has provided Ukraine with critical aid, most notably in strengthening air defences and joining coalitions for advanced fighter jet deliveries. But behind the smiles and formal greetings lay urgent concerns. At the top of the agenda, Russia's drone strike that violated Polish airspace, a provocation Kyiv insists was deliberate and one that cannot be dismissed as an accident. For Ukraine, the message to Denmark was clear. Each Russian drone that breaches NATO's frontier signals not just a threat to Ukraine, but to Europe as a whole. Rasmussen listened closely as Zelensky underscored the need to accelerate defensive measures. Air defense systems remain the lifeline of Ukraine's cities, protecting civilians from nightly bombardments. Without them, Kyiv, Kharkiv, Odessa and countless other communities would face destruction on an even greater scale. Denmark, for its part, has stepped into a leadership role within Europe. Copenhagen was one of the first to approve the transfer of F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine, partnering with the Netherlands and Belgium. This initiative has positioned Denmark at the forefront of Europe's collective military support, a role Rasmussen is keen to expand. His visit to Kyiv is a declaration that Denmark's commitment is not limited to paperwork or press statements. It is demonstrated by presence, action and investment in Ukraine's survival. The meeting extended beyond battlefield needs to broader European strategy. Both sides discussed the urgent necessity for new European Union sanctions against Moscow. While the EU has imposed multiple rounds of sanctions since 2022, Zelensky and Rasmussen agreed that loopholes remain, and Russia continues to find ways to import restricted technologies and sustain its war economy. For Kyiv, sanctions are not symbolic. They are tools to cut off lifelines to the Kremlin's military machine. Rasmussen echoed this view, stressing that sanctions must be sharpened, widened and enforced with vigilance. The significance of Denmark's involvement cannot be overstated. A relatively small nation by population, Denmark has emerged as a disproportionately influential voice in Europe's response to Russia. Its defence contributions, its diplomatic pressure, and its willingness to host Ukrainian training programmes have made it an ally Ukraine can count on. This is particularly vital at a time when US support is increasingly tied up in political disputes in Washington. As Congress debates funding packages, Zelensky has doubled down on European partnerships, urging allies not to wait for America's internal politics to settle. Inside the meeting, Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiga joined discussions, further underlining the seriousness of the agenda. This was not a courtesy call. It was part of Kyiv's calculated diplomatic strategy to maintain momentum in securing international support. Every high-level visitor to Kyiv provides Zelensky with an opportunity to press for faster deliveries, stricter sanctions, and greater unity among allies. Rasmussen's visit was no exception. In their conversations, Zelensky made it clear that Ukraine is not only defending its own sovereignty, but also shielding Europe from a dangerous aggressor that recognizes no borders. Russia's warplanes and drones do not stop at Ukraine's boundaries, he stressed. Neither should Europe's defences. Rasmussen's reply carried equal weight. He insisted that Denmark views Ukraine's safety as inseparable from its own. If Ukrainian skies fall, he said, it is only a matter of time before Polish, Lithuanian or even Danish skies are threatened. This alignment of narratives, Ukraine's fight as Europe's fight, is precisely what Zelensky has worked tirelessly to build since February 2022. Rasmussen's visit reinforced that message at a critical juncture. Russia's drone strike in Poland was not only an attack on a neighbour, it was a deliberate attempt to probe NATO's red lines. Zelensky and Rasmussen agreed that hesitation would invite further escalation. Unity, strength and readiness must be the response. The Danish delegation's presence in Kyiv also brought a message of long-term commitment. Beyond the battlefield, Denmark has pledged to support Ukraine's reconstruction, its institutions, and its eventual path into the European Union. Rasmussen's statements highlighted that Denmark will not abandon Ukraine after the war is over. Instead, it will be there to ensure Ukraine rebuilds stronger, with a European identity firmly anchored in its governance and economy. These assurances matter deeply inside Ukraine. As Russian missiles continue to hit civilian targets, as blackouts and destruction weigh heavily on ordinary people, each sign of international solidarity serves as a morale boost. The images of Zelensky sitting across from Rasmussen, papers spread across the table, officials leaning forward in discussion. These are signals not just to Moscow, but to Ukrainians themselves. The world has not forgotten, and the world is still here. Outside Kyiv, the war rages on. Russian drone and missile attacks remain relentless, with Ukrainian forces scrambling to keep pace in intercepting them. Meanwhile, on the front lines in the east and south, soldiers endure brutal conditions, fighting village by village, trench by trench. Against this backdrop, meetings such as today's provide more than diplomatic symbolism. They directly shape the resources that flow to those front lines. They determine whether Ukrainian soldiers have the ammunition, the air defense cover, and the international backing they need to resist Russia's advances. For Moscow, the optics of today's meeting are a reminder of failure. The Kremlin has sought to divide Europe, hoping sanctions fatigue and political disagreements would fracture unity. Instead, the sight of Zelensky and Rasmussen together in Kyiv demonstrates the opposite, a continent growing more determined to resist aggression. Denmark's stance is particularly telling. If even a smaller nation is willing to take bold positions, larger European powers cannot afford to lag behind. This diplomatic choreography also ties into wider geopolitical shifts. With Washington partially distracted and internal debates ongoing, Europe's role in supporting Ukraine is becoming more decisive. Leaders like Rasmussen are filling the vacuum, ensuring that Kyiv is not left vulnerable while American politics play out. For Zelensky, this diversification of support is a survival strategy, one that spreads reliance across multiple allies and prevents any single political impasse from jeopardizing Ukraine's defense. As the meeting wrapped up, both sides projected confidence. Denmark reaffirmed its readiness to deepen military cooperation, expand sanction pressure, and contribute to Ukraine's long-term recovery. Zelensky, in turn, expressed gratitude while making it clear that gratitude must be matched with urgency. The war is not slowing down, and neither can diplomacy. Ultimately, this encounter in Kyiv will be remembered less for its protocol and more for its message. Europe's security is indivisible, and Ukraine stands at its front line. Denmark's Foreign Minister Rasmussen, by coming to Kyiv, embodied that principle. His presence, his promises, and his government's actions send a signal not only to Ukrainians but to all of Europe. In this fight, Ukraine is not alone, and for Russia, the image is unavoidable. Every handshake between Zelensky and a European ally, every declaration of shared security is another reminder that attempts to isolate Kyiv are failing. Instead, Ukraine continues to rally partners, to strengthen defences, and to hold firm in its belief, not just in survival, but in eventual victory.
No, it's later. Yeah. You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Prime Minister, colleagues, we're thankful to you, your government, Parliament, Prime Minister, and of course to all the people of Denmark. We have very good relations from the very beginning of this war until now. Some models which have been created by your people, your government, have such alliance like Nordic countries, and this format, strong allies, our allies. Thank you for this. And of course, and future for the defending line for Denmark and Nordic countries and all the Europe. So thank you for this, and we really count on your...
I was actually the first Danish Prime Minister visiting an independent Ukraine. And we are proud that we have such a special relationship, our most important thing. And we realize that the fight in Ukraine is not only for the Ukrainians, but also for close cooperation between our two defense industries is not only for the benefit of Ukraine, but will also enable us to improve our capability to deterrence and defend Denmark. So